Its official name is Syrian Civil Defense, but it's better known as the White Helmets. It was founded in 2014 by Western intelligence agencies amid the domestic political crisis in Syria. It gained publicity by posting photos and videos on the internet demonstrating destruction and casualties resulting, as claimed by Western representatives, from the actions of the Syrian government and its allies. We have information that clearly shows that these photos and videos were staged. The White Helmets have totally disgraced their reputation by staging chemical attacks, artillery and air strikes, as well as by killing civilians, including women and children. There is hard evidence confirming that the White Helmets have strong ties to terrorist organizations, that its members commit robbery and looting, seize and disrupt the operation of school, kindergarten, hospitals, fire stations, stores, and the orphanages. Moreover, the White Helmets have assisted in expanding recruitment activities of terrorist organizations. All relevant information, also received from open sources, have already been presented by Russia, particularly at the UN. We have brought this issue into the spotlight of the attention of the international community, which regrettably most of the time continues to entertain groundless illusions about the true nature of the White Helmets. Unfortunately, stabilization of the situation in Syria has not convinced the White Helmets of the need to stop their provocations. Today's event has been prompted by information from different sources that the White Helmets, in collaboration with the terrorists of Jabhat al-Nusra, are preparing another provocation with the use of chemical weapons in the Idlib province, located in the northwest of Syria. Its goal, as in the case of previously staged attacks, is to accuse the Syrian army of using poisonous substances and thus discredit the Syrian authorities. The best-case scenario for terrorists would be to force their Western sponsors to launch illegitimate strikes on the Syrian territory. This time, according to our information, Jabhat al-Nusra fighters and the White Helmets representatives performed joint practical exercises on elimination of consequences of using poisonous substances, as well as preparations for media coverage of the staged events, aiming to boost their disinformation campaign and to exert manipulative, emotional influence on foreign public that is not aware of true intentions of the White Helmets. We must fill this gap and shed light on the real situation with the subversive activities of the White Helmets. We have invited a Russian expert, director of the Foundation for the Study of Democracy, Mr. Maxim Grigoriev. He has done enormous work, held over 100 interviews with civilians, former members of the White Helmets, and illegal militant groups. After his speech, we or you will have a chance to ask questions. Mr. Grigoriev, you are welcome.
Our organization, the Foundation for the Study of Democracy, is appalling fact. We started to do fact-checking of the White Helmets activities. In Syria, we have interviewed more than 100 eyewitnesses, more than 40 members of the White Helmets, former fighters from armed groups and terrorist groups, more than 50 people in the areas controlled by armed groups and terrorist groups where the White Helmets operated. We also conducted 2 sociological surveys in Aleppo and Dera with the help of volunteers. More than 500 residents were interviewed in each city. Пожалуйста, новый слайд. In open sources, the White Helmets refer to people who work for them as volunteers. The Oscar-winning movie, The White Helmets, also starts with the words about a group of volunteers. With more than 40 interviews, which were conducted with the White Helmets members, our fact-checking shows that the White Helmets are anything but a group of volunteers. Almost all its members were not volunteers, but permanent staff members who were paid monthly. Some organization members were at the same time members of armed groups. Some joined the organization for financial gain, so as to rob those who need help or to steal from the organization itself. Others became members to save their families from hunger. We also recorded cases of forced membership in the White Helmets when the seized hostages were forced to choose between joining either the organization or armed groups. The stories of eyewitnesses are on the slide. The structure of the White Helmets differed drastically from any non-government organization. It was a paramilitary and centralized structure. Heads of the centers used nicknames to conceal their identities as well as codes in radio context, just like military units. Orders from high ranks were mandatory for all members. Disobedience implied various kinds of punishment. You can see the story told by the member of the White Helmets on the slide. He was punished just for living without permission of superiors to save his own father, who came under fire. Пожалуйста, новый слайд. There is an undeniable evidence of a former member of Jaish al-Islam, illegal armed group, Jaish al-Islam Internal Security Service on the slide. He describes how he delivered written orders of his leaders to the White Helmets. I would like to stress that. Written orders. We have also collected sufficient evidence that the White Helmets refused to help those who were suspected of not supporting armed groups. Thus, by no means can the White Helmets be called neutral. We have gathered abundant evidence that heads of the White Helmet centers sent their members to prisons and personally threatened them with a gun if they refused to carry out dangerous tasks and orders that were regularly and directly received from terrorist or armed groups. For example, the White Helmets' dangerous but regular work was to fortify combat positions of the fighters. Новый слайд, пожалуйста. The White Helmets posted this video from a hospital in its Twitter in April 2018. On February 2019, the BBC Syria producer Riam Dalati tweeted, "After almost a month of investigations, I can prove without a doubt that the Duma hospital scene was staged." We went to the hospital that was filmed by the White Helmets in a video where its members allegedly helped out those who suffered from a chemical attack. The hospital personnel and Syrian civilians completely refuted those staged rescues. On the video snapshots, you can see White Helmets members who allegedly helped out those who suffered from a chemical attack. On the photo on the left, you can see our interview with a witness there too, Dr. Hassan. You can see his words on the screen. Many witnesses of the events confirmed to us this was fake news, and the hospital scene was staged. Пожалуйста, новый слайд. The picture on your right features a photo from the Time article. A photographer bears witness to a suspected chlorine attack in Syria. This article, with a reference to White Helmets members, imputed the Syrian army with an attack with the use of chlorine. We found White Helmets member Mahmoud Bouvidani from this photo and interviewed him exactly on the spot where the time shot was made. Mahmoud Bouvidani, a White Helmets member, fully exposed their propaganda. You can see his words in the bottom of the screen. Новый слайд. During our fact-checking mission in Syria, we found dozens of participants of the attacks staged by the White Helmets. Those people told us in detail how for a few dollars to buy some food for their families, they had to participate in the stagings. On the screen, you can see photos of only some of them. For example, Rihab Ali Mansour narrates how she was taken to a flat and given a white prayer cloth. She was then told to lay down and smear her mouth with toothpaste, playing dead in chemical attack. Yazan At-Tarazi narrates how he was taken to a medical center with White Helmets members, covered with white blankets, told to close his eyes and filmed as for a movie. Пожалуйста, новый слайд. On the screen, you can see the words of Wafika Hubia, who relates how she was brought by car to the city of Zamalka, given a white blanket, and she lay down on the staircase, feigning death in a chemical attack. In the bottom of the screen, the words of witness Amar al-Mustafa ibn Muhammad from Aleppo, who saw with his own eyes how White Helmets simulated a chemical attack. His words on the screen. Пожалуйста, новый слайд. On the screen, the words of White Helmets member in Duma, Ahmed Bouvidani. He narrates how children feigned sufferings in a chemical attack. They were then given candies. At the bottom of the screen, you can see the words of the Aleppo citizen, Abdurazak Nassan ibn Nauman, who said that he had personally seen the stage scenes of the White Helmets. His words on the screen. Новый слайд. Here is a further proof of the White Helmets stage scenes related to the chemical attack. Amran Makia, member of the White Helmets, I quote, "We were told that there were victims of the chemical attack. We went there and saw that nothing special, just a fire. But the White Helmets were taking pictures, filming everything, and said that those were the consequences of a chemical attack." Aleppo citizen Muhammad al-Mustafa ibn Hassan says, I quote, "The White Helmets always disseminated information according to which the authorities had used chemical weapons. It was not true. In fact, we, as the inhabitants of that district, had never seen or heard of a local child that had become victim of a chemical attack." Пожалуйста, новый слайд. On the right, you can see a shot from the White Helmets video. In this report, the White Helmets stated that the Syrian troops had attacked the Jisr al-Hajj in the district of Aleppo. Abdul Jabbar Bodoka, member of the White Helmets, describes there, the words on the screen, how he personally took part in the filming of these staged rescues. Новый слайд, пожалуйста. According to numerous testimonies of the witnesses we have questioned, falsification of chemical attacks was an essential part of the White Helmets activities. Members of the White Helmets told us that the organization established entire groups and divisions to shoot staged scenes. Suleiman Mohammed Darwish, member of the White Helmets, says that the White Helmets office in Eastern Ghouta requested fabricated information every 2 days. Новый slide. Representatives of Syrian NGOs told us that after the withdrawal of fighters from Aleppo, they had talked to people in critical conditions, asking them, "Why did you not receive treatment there?" The locals answered that they had not trusted the White Helmets. I quote, "People came there for treatment, but only dead bodies came back." The slide shows the words of the head of nursing staff at Ibn Rushd Hospital in Aleppo. He says he personally examined the body of his acquaintance who had been taken away by the White Helmets. The body was returned with no organs. Следующий slide. The top of the slide presents the words of an Aleppo resident who states that people evacuated by the White Helmets often came back with no internal organs. Children and women were particularly likely to become victims of the White Helmets. With neighbors in Arab cities always in contact with each other, such cases soon became known to the entire district. Therefore, it was easy for us to detect many dozens of such cases in Aleppo. The bottom of the slide shows the words of a former member of Ahrar al-Sham armed group who claims that his commander, Shadi Kadik, codename Abu Adel al-Halabi, acknowledged the existence of the system for organ theft. A large body of evidence let us make a clear conclusion that the White Helmet centers were a key element in the system of forced human organs removal. Следующий slide. On the screen, you can see several witness testimonies by the White Helmets and former armed groups members. Those are some of many dozens of observations on the practice of stealing from shelling victims, no matter dead or alive, that was widely spread among the White Helmets. The absolute majority of their victims were women. Members of the organization gave us details on how members of the White Helmets had robbed luxury apartments and stores. Следующий slide. Members of the White Helmets say that their senior ranks had a diverse and comprehensive system of embezzlements and deception of sponsors that included such measures as the falsification of payrolls, forging expenses on fuel and equipment repairs, and selling humanitarian aid. The bottom of the slide shows the words of the member of the White Helmets in Sagba, Suleiman Mohammed Darwish, and here I quote, "Heads of the White Helmet Center stole a lot of money. Once we installed a crane on a car. One piece for this car was worth 100,000 Syrian pounds. They wrote off 1 million. Новый slide. The main characters of the Oscar-winning movie, The White Helmets, are staff members of a center in Ansari district, Aleppo. Somehow, the movie fails to mention that the White Helmets deployed their center in Third Art School for Girls in Aleppo, which they had seized, forcing girls and teachers out of the premises. It was not an exception. Capturing schools and kindergartens, forcing children and pupils out, and ordering teachers on pain of death to send their students to religious schools were standard practices employed by the White Helmets, which had a devastating impact on the Syrian educational system. Noteworthy is the opinion of an opposition journalist who worked with the White Helmets, and here I quote, "At a raw estimate, out of 26 centers operated just in eastern Ghouta, 10 were located in schools and 1 in a kindergarten." Новый слайд, пожалуйста. Here is the story of a man from Aleppo who worked as a fireman for 25 years. He says the Syrian government continued to provide funding even when his district was occupied by the fighters. He stopped working only after the fire station was seized by the White Helmets. Many staff members of this organization told us that most of them lacked specific training. Many even had no secondary educational qualifications, and equipment they captured often stood idle. The White Helmets destroyed an effective national firefighting system and tried to replace it with their own, aimed at self-promotion, poorly functioning and staffed with unqualified people. Новый слайд. Members of the White Helmets gave us a detailed account of how the organization centers worked to fortify battle positions of terrorist groups and armed groups, supplied them with water and food, and evacuated wounded fighters from the front line. The slide shows photos of the White Helmet Center and the Jaish al-Islam fighters' headquarters. I personally traveled through an underground tunnel connecting those two sites, which used to be a part of a system of underground tunnels leading to other facilities of the armed group. Следующий слайд. Civilians in their interviews gave us full names of dozens of real persons, often their own neighbors, who served both for the White Helmets and armed groups. We were told that those people had been involved both in the White Helmets activities and military operations, repressions against civilians, interrogations and beatings of locals, killings of Syrian soldiers. At the top of the screen, you will find a testimony of a man who was assaulted by the White Helmets. Often the situation occurred when the whole White Helmet Center was staffed by members of an armed group, with its leader in a senior position at the center. At the bottom of the screen, you may read a vivid account given by a witness who tried to find a job at one of the White Helmet centers, but was requested to provide a written recommendation from the Sharia Committee of Jabhat al-Nusra's Al-Qaeda affiliate in Syria and Lebanon. The words on the screen. Следующий слайд, пожалуйста. The White Helmet centers normally acted under command of an armed group which controlled their location area. On the screen, you can see a first-hand testimony by an opposition reporter stating that only in eastern Ghouta alone, around 150 White Helmet members were serving in terrorist groups and armed groups. Новый слайд, пожалуйста. We also have evidence that many members of the White Helmets covertly underwent military training, including in laying landmines. One of the training centers was operating under the supervision of Jabhat al-Nusra in the area of the granary in the city of Sarakib. Almost all eyewitnesses explicitly told us that members of the White Helmets concealed their connections with armed and terrorist groups only when interviewed by the Western media. In all other situations, they not only didn't conceal this, but spoke proudly of being members of armed groups and participating in hostilities. Those facts are beyond doubt. One only has to visit the Facebook pages of members of the White Helmets, where they have posted hundreds of photos with weapons in their hands. Следующий слайд. Likewise, the Facebook accounts of members of White Helmets are full of propagandist materials of terrorist groups, including Islamic State, terrorist organization, and Al-Qaeda, praising Osama bin Laden and other individuals listed by the UN as terrorists. In 2018, hundreds of former White Helmets members and their families came to Western countries. Those people know how to kill. They are skilled and experienced in using weapons and follow extremist religious and anti-Western ideology. Следующий слайд. The results of a survey of more than 100 witnesses from among the White Helmets members, former members of armed groups and Syrian civilians, as well as the social surveys, unequivocally confirm the following conclusions. First, production of fake news about chemical attacks and staged rescues was a permanent element of the White Helmets' work. Specialized divisions and groups within the organization centers and offices have been established for that purpose. Second, the White Helmets became a key element of the criminal system of forced organ harvesting from Syrian victims. Third, the White Helmet centers were in fact engineering and medical units as well as logistic support divisions for terrorist groups and armed formations. Следующий слайд. Fourth, the White Helmets destroyed the efficient state system of civil protection and fire prevention, continuously funded by the Syrian government in the territories occupied by fighters, and tried to replace it with their own that was aimed at self-promotion, functioned poorly, and comprised fighters and untrained people who often didn't even have secondary education. The widespread practice of establishing the White Helmet centers in the occupied schools and preschools after forcing teachers and students out of the buildings had a devastating effect on the education system of Syria. Fifth, a significant number of terrorists and members of armed formations had or worked in the White Helmet centers while participating in combat operations. Many organization centers were comprised entirely of terrorist organization members or illegal armed group members. It is easy to find in social networks where the White Helmets members do not conceal their sympathy for terrorism. They distribute materials of terrorist group Daesh or Islamic State or Jabhat al-Nusra, a terrorist branch, Al-Qaeda branch in Syria and Lebanon, and many others. There are a lot of photos of the White Helmets members on Facebook holding weapons in their arms. Witnesses from the White Helmets tell us that radical anti-Western ideology dominated in the organization. Hundreds of former White Helmets members came to the Western countries. They had combat experience and knew how to handle a weapon. A considerable number of them pose a clear threat to the security of those countries. This threat has even grown since the White Helmets leader, Ayat Saleh, was not allowed in 2016 to enter the US in the Washington airport because he was included in the list of suspects for posing a threat to the US security. Major part of the facts confirming those conclusions can be found in this report I am presenting to you today. It is titled "The White Helmets, Terrorist Accomplices and a Source of Disinformation."
First question is, What are the activities of the White Helmets now, as you know of? And did you mention that there were preparations for some sort of, staged chemical weapons attack in Idlib? I wasn't sure if that was recent or when that was. And then why this presentation right now? What is? Yeah, those are my questions. Thank you.
Есть очень много свидетельств о том, что вот эта противоправная деятельность белых касок продолжается сейчас в Идлибе. Вот эти связи с террористическими группами, они стали только больше. И все преступления, о которых я говорил сегодня, продолжаются сейчас в Идлибе.
So as far as we know that there is much activity and there is much evidence that White Helmets are still operational and they boost their operation in Idlib, as well as there are still links, they do maintain links to terrorist organization, and therefore this is the information in our possession at the moment.
В том числе и подготовка вот эти срежиссированные сцены.
Including the preparation for the stage attacks.
Но мы не включили свидетельства этих людей в отчет, потому что у нас они проживают, эти люди, в Идлибе, только иногда выезжают на территорию, контролируемую сирийским правительством. И у нас, к сожалению, есть убежденность в том, что если бы мы эти свидетельства включили бы, то тогда эти люди были бы просто, которые дали бы свидетельство против белых касок, они были бы просто убиты.
But we haven't included those.
Мы не включили.
We haven't included those in the report because those are the people who live in the Idlib province, which is not controlled by the Syrian government, and they rarely get out of the province. So we are afraid that if they give out information and if they witness and do it openly, there will be consequences for them afterwards. Their life may be threatened.
Just, I would like to add.
OPCW, and if you got any response from them, and if they accepted your evidence of new provocations and old provocations as well. Thank you.
Да. Несколько месяцев назад, около месяца назад, у меня был отдельный брифинг в Организации по запрещению химического оружия, где мы представили и АЗХО, и целому ряду стран наши данные.
Well, to be more specific, just about a month ago, I had a special meeting at the Organization for Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, where we presented all our evidence to OPCW and other delegations.
Более того, на прошлой неделе у меня было выступление в ООН, где мы обсуждали доклад Организации по запрещению химического оружия об инциденте в Думе, и где мы указали на целый ряд внутренних противоречий этого доклада и крайне низкий уровень подготовки самого доклада со стороны АЗХО.
Moreover, last week I spoke at the United Nations, and there we reviewed the OPCW report on Duma, and I pointed out some of the controversies and that some of the things that the report do not match up, and therefore and the overall poor quality of the whole report.
Например, в самом начале отчета АЗХО фактически делается вывод о том, что о ситуации в госпитале в Думе, и подтверждается то, о чем я говорил сегодня, что вся сцена с госпиталем в Думе является fake news.
So, for instance, in the beginning of the OPCW report, it touches upon the whole scene at the hospital in Duma, and as we do the fact-checking on that, it is clear that the whole scene at the Duma hospital is fake news.
Фактически в своем отчете АЗХО говорит о том, что белые каски, свидетели со стороны белой каски, они не могут считаться доверенными свидетелями, которые предоставляют информацию, компетентную информацию, и фактически обвиняют белые каски во лжи.
So, in the report itself, in the OPCW report, it is noted that the White Helmets, members of the White Helmets organization cannot be regarded and cannot be viewed as valid as a valid source, and therefore cannot be trusted for giving the direct evidence.
Одновременно в том же отчете, практически оставшийся полностью отчет АЗХО, практически полностью базируется на анонимных свидетелях и на белых касках. Более 20 раз белые каски упоминаются в этом отчете. Конечно, это не соответствует просто правилам стандартной логики, когда вначале источник обвиняется во лжи, а потом вся остальная часть отчета полностью на тех же свидетельских основывается.
But at the same time, the whole report, the rest of the report is based on anonymous sources, and moreover, over 20 times the members of White Helmets are mentioned, and this contradicts simple logic and standard logic. Why in the beginning of the report it is stated that they cannot be trusted, but then they are mentioned over about 20 times.
Мы, естественно, указали УЗХО на эти, а также целый ряд других грубых ошибок, но АЗХО, так сказать, молчит и никак на это не отвечает. Мы надеемся, они все-таки как-то отреагируют.
So we pointed out this and some other contradictions to the OPCW, and unfortunately the organization keeps silent, and we hope that we'll get a response from them someday.
I'm wondering where you'll be posting the full unedited videos where we can hear the questions as well as the answers. I'm wondering, many of these seem to take place in the same location, this room with the white walls and the red chairs. Where is that? How did the interview subjects get there? And did all the interviews take place in areas currently under Assad control? And during your trip, did you have any kind of security with you? Were you with armed guards, a military escort? And if you could explain a little bit about the Foundation for the Study of Democracy and where your funding comes from. Thank you.
Could you repeat the second part of the question?
About the room?
Yeah, about the room.
A lot of the interviews seem to take place in this room with the white walls and the two red chairs. I'm wondering.
Что касается проведения самих интервью, какой-либо опасности на территории, которая сейчас находится под контролем правительственных войск, нет. Мы не находились на территории поблизости от Идлиба и не находились на тех территориях, которые близко от территории, где находятся вооруженные группы. Вся остальная территория сейчас свободна и безопасна для свободного общения с людьми.
So as far as the interviews are concerned, we spoke at places controlled by the Syrian government, which are safe, so we did not need any protection for that. And we weren't around the militant groups as well, so we've operated, and by that I mean we weren't around the Idlib province. Therefore, we weren't in the harm's way for the interviews to happen.
Безусловно, с нами были в том числе водители, и эти водители одновременно были такими неформальными охранниками для нас.
Certainly we had drivers, and those drivers were the so-called informal bodyguards.
Что касается помещений, мы проводили интервью в разных помещениях, как правило, поблизости от тех мест, где находили свидетелей. Некоторые из этих мест мы платили за использование этих мест, а некоторые нам предоставляли бесплатно жители, собственно говоря, самих районов, потому что многие из них хотели поделиться той информацией, что с ними происходило во время их жизни под контролем террористических групп. И, собственно говоря, там и работали белые каски.
So as we talk about the different rooms we used to shoot our interviews, they were different. I mean, it was different locations. Well, some of them we had to pay for, and some of them were provided by local residents. And we usually chose the places just close to the interviewees. And some of them were just simply provided by the local population, since they were really trying to share the information with us on what really happened during the times when the White Helmets were operational in the area.
И очень часто, когда мы выезжали просто в какие-то районы, объясняли, что мы российская НГО, приходило очень много людей поговорить с нами, они открыто все это говорили, и многие приглашали нас в свои дома, предлагали кофе, какую-то даже еду. То есть у нас скорее не было недостатка в количестве людей, которые хотят рассказать о том, что происходило, когда эти районы были заняты террористами.
So, and when we went in and told the people that we are a Russian NGO, we did not experience any lack of people who wished to speak to us, and people invited us over to their houses. They shared food and coffee with us, so we didn't feel any lack of people unwilling to speak with us. Everybody wanted to.
Я думаю, что когда мы обработаем все интервью, мы готовы будем выложить публично все эти интервью, но, безусловно, мы должны убрать ту часть, которая ставит людей под, может, так или иначе, с одной стороны, связана с какими-то личными тяжелыми для них воспоминаниями, например, о смерти их близких, например, о пытках, которым они подвергались, в том числе у нас есть свидетельства, и белые каски участвовали в этих пытках. И, конечно, очень аккуратно мы относимся к историям о пострадавших детях и женщинах. Мы, безусловно, исходя из безопасности этих людей и исходя из того, чтобы не разгласить вот эту очень личную, тяжелую для них информацию, какую-то часть мы будем убирать.
So, this will happen eventually. Now we're just finalizing the process of the editing of those movie clips. Since we're careful about the personal information, especially when people shared their personal stories about the death of their loved ones and torture, scenes of torture during which the White Helmets also participated. And so we are careful about disclosing that information, and it will, some parts of that, some parts like that will be edited out of the final cut, but since we are careful about the protection of those people whom we shot, whom we filmed, and about the disclosing personal information.
На использование этой информации и той информации, которая в этом отчете, нам было дано разрешение этими людьми. Но, например, случаи насилия, связанные с женщинами, случаи описания пыток, мы из этой книжки исключили.
Well, we've received an official confirmation and official approval. But they just voiced, it's not a written one, they voiced their agreement to post the information on them, the pictures, all the data. Although we had to edit out the acts of violence against women and scenes of torture.
No, completely free. without payment.
Спасибо, Первый канал. As we see, there are just a few cameras of Russian media in here. As I know, you did present this report in Europe as well as in the UN. So what was the response of Western media? Did they have any questions for you? Did they participate in press conferences? And what do you think the role of the media in revealing the truth about white helmets? Thank you.
Пока мы видим, что средства медиа, западные медиа пытаются сделать вид, что этой информации нет. Точно так же, как они, как я уже приводил примеры, не писали о том, что в действительности террористы, такие как Осама бен Ладен, они уже были террористами, когда воевали с советскими войсками.
So as far as we can see, that the Western media pretends that there is no such information like that. Like for instance, during the case when they refused to accept Osama bin Laden as a terrorist when he was fighting Soviet troops.
Но я думаю, что все больше медиа будет понимать действительную, настоящую роль белых касок, все больше будет свидетелей, все меньше политической необходимости будет скрывать эту информацию, и рано или поздно об этом начнут говорить, я в этом не сомневаюсь.
But I believe that one day more and more media will understand the true nature of the white helmets, that the truth will be finally revealed, and people will understand what's behind the goals of the white helmets, their true intents. And people will talk more about this issue.
Unfortunately, we're limited in time.
Syrian Democratic Council. I have two questions. The first question, did you share your evidence with United Nations? As I know, there's an international committee, and what about the result if you share it? The second question, did you share this evidence with Syrian opposition and with Turkey also, which they are part of Asitana group? And we know that these white helmet, they are working under in Idlib and occupied Afrin, and they are pro-Turkey.
Well, your first part is you shared.
And if you share this evidence with United Nations.
Первый мой доклад в ООН, он прошел в декабре прошлого года. Видеозапись этого доклада, его содержание есть на официальном сайте ООН. И, естественно, все желающие могли с ним ознакомиться.
So my first report came out December of last year, and everybody, it is available on the UN website, the video of me giving that report, so everybody can take a look.
В мероприятии, которое проходило в декабре прошлого года, принимал участие как постоянный представитель России в ООН, так и постоянный представитель Сирии в ООН. И у них было на этом мероприятии возможность получить всю эту информацию. Вопрос еще раз.
Till now, the Syrian opposition, they said that this evidence isn't true. And what because they are part of Asitana and they are, even Turkey, they are under control of Turkey, this white helmet, and they say it is not true.
Мы понимаем, что есть очень много людей и очень много сил, которые были заинтересованы в белых касках. И, безусловно, эти люди будут стараться закрывать глаза, не смотреть на это, а некоторые будут говорить, что они в это не верят. Мы это понимаем, Но, как я уже сказал, все больше будет информации и все больше правда будет доходить до людей.
So, as I've said, there are many people and there are many powers, certain powers, that are interested in just taking a blind eye on the White Helmets organization. But just as I said, the more time goes, the more information will come out about the true nature of the White Helmets, and the truth will be disclosed.
Thank you, dear colleague.